This one's going to be a little bit different. This time, what it's asking you to do is to take the polynomial, and it gives you one of the factors of the polynomial. So it says p of x has a known factor of x plus 1. So that means this does divide into this. So they already tell you that. They want you to rewrite this polynomial as a product of linear factors. Really, all this means is that when we rewrite our answer, we're going to have x plus 1, and we're going to be multiplying that times some other thing times some other thing when we factor all this out. So let's go through. We're going to do that division. We're going to find this factor, and we're going to be good. So, for the sake of time, I like personally using synthetic division now that we've talked about this, but I understand some of you guys like using the long division form. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you both ways again. So if I do x plus 1 over here, that's what we're going to do. We're going to set up our division house. And we got 5x to the third power minus 9x to the second minus 6x plus 8. Now, one thing I'm noticing here, there's no gaps in the exponents for our x's. So that means I don't have to add any placeholders. So that means that we can just jump right into the division. So let's set this up. We're going to use our parentheses, our minus sign, the line underneath. Now, we want to get these two to look the same. We want x to look like 5x to the third power. So to get x to look like 5x to the third power, I got to get a 5 in there. And I got to get me 2 more x's, so an x squared. So 5x squared is what we're going to multiply this by. So 5x squared times x, that'll give me that 5x to the third power that we want. That's good. Now 5x squared times 1, that's simply just 5x squared, because we know that anything times 1 is that. Now we go through, we do our subtraction. 5x to the third power minus itself is going to be nothing. It's going to cancel out. Now we got negative 9 minus 5x squared. Since we're subtracting from this negative number, that means that we're going to add these two together. So 5 plus 9 we know is 14. And since these both are going to be negative, that'll be a negative 14. Alright, so we're doing good so far. We're going to now bring down this next number. We got 6x. Next thing we're going to do, we are going to break down our negative 6, and we're going to get, this time, x over here to look like what we got here, this negative 14. So we know that we don't got a negative 14 attached to our x, so we know we're going to multiply by that. So let's put that negative 14 up there. And then since we need another x, we're going to put a 14x, so negative 14x. So we're going to set up what we got here. So we know we're going to get a negative 14x here. That's what we want. Now negative 14x times 1, that'll be minus 14x. So negative 14x minus negative 14x really turns into negative 14x plus 14x. That cancels it out. We're good. Now we got negative 6 minus negative 14x. So that's negative 6 plus 14. So that means that when we do this, we end up getting, I believe that's 8. And now we bring down our very last thing. Now you could already see here things are kind of lining up for us. So this time we want to get x here to look like 8x. That just simply means that we got to multiply by a positive 8. So that's 8x here plus 8. And then we subtract those. That means that we end up getting a nice remainder of 0. So this right here, we end up getting as our bigger factor. Now what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to go through and factor out this part. So let's rewrite this to the side. We had 5x squared minus 14 plus 8. Now, even though I just did all this, and some of you guys are a little comfortable with it, we could have simply gone through it with synthetic division. So how do we do that? We just take the 0 that we get from solving for x plus 1. That's just -1. Then we take out our coefficients from our larger polynomial. So we got 5, -9, -6, and plus 8. First, I bring down the first one. That's 5. See, this 5 here is the same as the coefficient of 5 right here. Next, I do -1 times 5, which comes underneath here as -5. Then I add these two together, which gives me a -14. See, -14 here, -14 here. Now I do -14 times -1, which gives me a +14. -6 plus 14, that ends up giving me a 8. And then -1 times 8 gives me this -8 to the back, which is where we would get our remainder of 0. Next, we know we were at the third power before, so that means we're going to come down one exponent. So we're going to go to the second power. And then we fill in any signs where we see appropriate. So same thing, kind of quicker. Now, here's what we got. We got this right here. First step, I particularly like using the factoring method where I take my last term here. So here's my last term, 5. Sorry, my first term. So 5, I'm going to bring this 5 all the way to the back and multiply it times 8. So that's going to turn this into x squared minus 14x plus 40. The reason for this being is it's going to make it a little easier for me to factor this out with an x squared in the front as opposed to a 5x squared. Now we're going to have to deal with this 5 when we get to these two factors here, but it'll be a little easier if you've practiced this before. So we know that the factors of x squared are x and x. The factors of +40 that add up to -14, that means both of these have to be negative, because we know a negative times a negative gives me a positive. And that means that our two numbers are going to end up being, when we go through and do the math, we're looking for +40. So that means that we got -10 and -4. Now, next step we do, that 5 that we dealt with earlier, we're going to actually go through and we're going to divide each of our two factors that we just found by it. If we can divide it or reduce it, we do. If we can't, what we'll do is we're going to take the 5 and bring it in front of the x directly in that parenthesis with it. So this one, we know 4 isn't divisible by 5 evenly. So we bring this 5 in front. We got 5x minus 4. In the other parenthesis, we know 10 divided by 5, that's going to give us a 2. So we got x minus 2. We got 5x minus 4. So that means these are my other two that we got right here for our factors. So our final answer is x minus 2 times x plus 1 times 5x minus 4. So let's go through. Let's put all that in there. Alright, let's hit all this in there. And there we go. Nice big check. So these are going to be very similar. So we're going to go through, we're going to divide this, then we're going to go through and solve. So that right there, that is all three of our problems, all types of things that we are going to see Good luck, folks. I'll see you in the meeting if you got any issues, any questions. See ya later.